we begin by observing that computers are general purpose machines. Computers are general purpose machines that have found use in virtually all kinds of organizations, that are found use in virtually all kinds of organizations. Computers are a tool used to solve problems relating to processing of data, into a meaningful form. Into a meaningful form. The term data refers to raw facts about events within the organization or outside it. Events within the organization or outside it, which the management are interested in processing into, a meaningful form. The result of data processing is information. The result of data processing is information. In other words, information is processed data that conveys meaning. It's processed data that conveys meaning to users in an organization. It's processed data that conveys meaning to users in an organization. In a new paragraph, let us put down that computers are essentially tools for data processing. And the term computer application refers to putting computers to practical use. You also have to be fast. We are talking about computers, isn't it? Yes, these are very fast machines. You must be very fast. You must develop your shorthand for taking down notes. This is colleague level now. It's unlike ordinary level. You have to be very fast. Where you get lost? Read for me the last thing you put down. They're essentially used for data processing. What did you put down after that? The term computer application refers to putting to practical use of computers. It refers to putting to practical use of computers. put into practical use of computers. Just note that in a modern environment, in a new paragraph, in a modern environment, this involves, in a modern environment, this involves the use of standard computer application programs. Standard computer application programs to solve organizational problems. Solve organizational problems. Mentioned that such standard computer application programs are often called, such standard computer application programs are often called application packages. Application packages are often called application packages. They're often called application packages. Criteria for using computers. Criteria for using computers. The three main considerations in use of computers are: one, technical feasibility. Two, cost effectiveness. And three, social acceptability. We have technical feasibility, cost effectiveness, and social acceptability. Let's explain the three important considerations by beginning with the first one. The first consideration is technical feasibility. Very quickly, we can point out that for an organization to use computers effectively, it must be technically feasible to do so. They must have the infrastructure to support the use of computers. Such as electricity, computer rooms, among others. For instance, if computers, for example, if computers are to be used for communication, then there must be an internet service provider must be an internet service provider, and the institution must have a network. Must have a network. The second criteria of cost effectiveness requires that an organization weighs the benefits of using computers against the cost of acquiring hardware, software, weighs the benefits of using computers against the cost of acquiring hardware, software, and training the personnel. Cost of acquiring hardware, software, and training the personnel that produce computers. A decision to use computers should be made if the benefits outweigh the costs of using computers. Finally, the use of computers should be socially acceptable. In other words, an organization needs to consider, finally, the use of computers should be socially acceptable. In other words, the organization needs to consider the social impact of computers, on users and the environment. The social impact of computers on users and the environment in deciding on use of computers. For example, an organization must consider the possible effect of using computers on the health. It must consider the possible effect of using computers on the health of users and the possibility of replacing users and thereby rendering them unemployed. The last thing I want us to talk about before we wind up this session on introduction to computer applications is software. Because the whole course revolves around computer software. My talk about software this morning would limit us to just knowing the types of software we have and knowing about what the term software actually means. So you could note to begin with that the term software refers to computer instructions. Note. Sorry? Social acceptability. Maybe you didn't take down the notes, but I talked about social acceptability in regard to the probability that introduction of computers could hurt the health of people working with computers. A number of cases, if you look at the screen for so long, it interferes with your eyesight. I've talked about the health. I've also talked about the possibility of computers causing unemployment. Computers can also pollute the environment. E-waste. When you're done with the computers, 5 years down the road, we may not be having this kind of computers. Already we have a lot of computers here that we had before that are best referred to as junks. This affects the environment. Where do you take them to? That's the question. Okay. So did you consider such issues relating to wider society implications of using computers? So I did mention something about this. Maybe you want to ask a question about this. You're right. Fine. Now, because I'm saying we just have 2 minutes, and we need a little bit of time to talk about types of software, I think we can defer this to our next session, during which we would actually focus specifically on business applications 1 and 2 at the same time. There is my hope that this time we look at business applications 1, 2, and 3. In particular, we'll look at typing and organizers, word processing, and also spreadsheet analysis, those 3 areas. Okay. Depending on your speed or how fast you pick, how motivated you are, you'll be able to add onto what I planned for the term, maybe 1 more area, databases. What's the idea here? The idea is that by the time you take in your stage 1 examinations, you've covered so much so that it becomes a walkover, as it were. To sum up, in today's session, we began by noting that the course, Computer Studies, is really designed to give you a foundation that you need in your subsequent studies relating to this young science known as computer science. This introduction is in 3 stages, stage 1, 2, and 3, during which you take different subjects. In stage 1, you have a couple of subjects, one of which is computer applications. Computer applications will go on to stage 2 and 3. I've outlined the 13 areas we're going to focus on in computer applications on the board in this particular session, and we've taken down this in this session. When you walk out of this class, what should remain in you is that computer applications is about the practical use of computers in solving given problems in organizations. And that our objective is to be able to use standard application packages such as word processors, spreadsheets, databases, desktop publishing, software accounting applications, upgraded design applications in solving given problems within organizations. But above all, we should also be aware of other application areas. Like, for instance, we need to be aware of application areas in retail, in industry, in engineering, in operations management, mathematical systems, in science and research, in transportation, in hospitality, and entertainment. Lastly, we need to be clear about future trends in application of computers to solving business or organizational problems in general. All this must be done in a context of the wider society. We must not just be blind of the marvel that the computers are. We must appreciate that their use has an impact on society. We must be aware that in making use of computers, we must make them as socially acceptable as possible within our own societies and within even the family itself. I think we'll end